I'll get to that. But so maybe I should talk about that too. So right after CCS, I graduated in 2009. I took 2 years off before I went to grad school. And they had a huge film incentive here in Michigan. I don't know if you guys remember that. But they were hiring a lot of local people. So that was my first job out of college, was working as a set sculptor. So, you know, paid really good. I went to, you know, when I got into Yale, I was talking to one of the critics, and he was like, "Wait, so you were about to be in the union? Well, what you doing here?" And I was like, I don't know why I'm here, but I'm here. So I took 2 years off, and I worked in the, you know, they did a remake of Red Dawn, which was like a big 80s film that made a lot of people famous. And then they did Real Steel, which was a Hugh Jackman movie about robots or something like that. So I worked on that, and then I decided to apply to grad school. And the interesting thing about applying to grad school was that for me, I only wanted to go to grad school because I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go to grad school. I didn't want to go to another school that would put me in more debt, even if it was like one of the top institutions. But I was like, I want to make sure that my work is as important as the top people that are out there. So what do I do to get to that level? So I looked at all the top institutions. My mentor, Richard Lewis, who couldn't be here because he's tending to his mother, he went to Yale. And that's when I was like, wait, Yale has an art program? What's this about? So I decided to, you know, apply, and a lot of people told me, like, if you're going to go to grad school, apply to these other schools that you have a better chance of getting into, you know, check that out, check this out. And I was like, no, I don't. I'm only going if I go to the #1 place, or if I maybe the #2. So I applied to Yale, and I got into Yale, and so between, I guess, 2009 and 2011, I was doing the sculpture and doing a lot of painting, getting my portfolio ready, and then I got into Yale in 2011. So this is part of my process. So you can see, like, before the new work that I'm going to show, that I started in a real traditional way with a ground, for all the painters out in the crowd, with the ground, and then my drawing wasn't really rigid. I always draw with paint. I like the freedom and the movement of line that you get with paint, instead of doing like a pencil drawing or charcoal drawing and then painting on top of that. So this is me milking off my mom's studio in Detroit at the time. This is a painting that I did what's this, 2010, I believe, 2010. And this was at the time my girlfriend Sharon. And oftentimes I get tired of painting myself. You'll see that later on, that I do a lot of self-portraits, because I like to, you know, kind of reflect in the way that Rembrandt did over the time that he ages. And I feel like you get a lot more from painting, right? That paintings unfold over time that you can't really get from photography. And I like to work often in person. But sometimes, you know, people have busy schedules, so you have to take a photograph and work in the photograph. But she was kind of mad at me because I had her holding that basketball for a long time. So yeah, I kind of got it really hard from this piece. But the piece that you'll see in the next slide is called A Sigh of Relief. And I was going through some things, and I didn't want to, between me and her, regardless of other people, and I didn't want to represent myself. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll use someone else that kind of speaks for me. So you'll see that in this painting here. So this was done in 2010. It's called The Sigh of Relief. And you know, I like to say that a lot of my inspiration is from biblical work, because there's a lot of gore in the Bible. There's a lot of gore in European paintings. But for this piece, you don't see like dripping blood or gushing blood or anything like that. It's more about like an idea, a thought of this feeling, right? That she is kind of detached from her body in a way. And this was in 2010. So I would say, I think right before, the summer before going to grad school, I don't know how I came upon this image, but I take inspiration from a lot of different art. Not just European painting, from the Mexican muralists, from a lot of American artists, a lot from Egyptian art. But I saw this painting, and this is a Diego Rivera painting from 1939 called Dance Arresting. And I never saw a painting depicting a black woman in this way, where she is the sole person in the image. And we'll go through more about the image of black women in painting and images. So I was just kind of taken, I was like, wait, what, Diego? This is amazing. So, I saw it and I was taken aback, because usually something like this would be represented by a white woman or, someone else. But for the most part, this was really almost jaunting to me in the way that she depicted, the way that the image is just her. And it's kind of like you feel a real vulnerability to her body, her eyes, the way she's looking. And I wanted to do kind of my own thing about how I see my sisters, my relatives, my aunts, my lovers, and how I see black women and the things that they have to deal with, right, in society. And I think to kind of touch on these things is really difficult, especially for a heterosexual male to talk about female sexuality and women in images and women in painting, because you don't want to pursue it in a way that's seen from a male gaze, specifically from a white male gaze. So I wanted to, this is the painting I created from that piece. And this is called The Consumption of Beauty. And I did this in 2011, literally the summer before. I think I finished painting it maybe 3 days before I left for Yale. But you can see on the ground, right, all the images that bombard women every day about what's beautiful, right, what's known, specifically for black women. Like, what kind of hairstyle do these women have? What is their body type? How unreal, even for like a Beyonce or, the black magazines that we often see. They all kind of acquire and get themselves into the notion of looking like that Vogue magazine, that Maxim magazine, or those things being beautiful. Far too often we don't see a dark-skinned woman on the cover, or a woman with natural hair on a magazine, unless it's a specific natural hair magazine. So I'm talking about those things. You can see, the perm is on the side, on the far left. You've got the curling iron, all the things that growing up in a large family of women, a large family. My cousin Anthony over there, we was like the only boys in the family with nothing but women. So this was something that I thought was really important for the image. And this is my girlfriend again, Sharon, and just things that I see personally that people that are really close to me at heart, and things that they deal with, right? So I wanted to talk about that historically in a way, specifically from Rivero's painting, how vulnerable that image of that painting was. So when I got to Yale, again, you see the self-portrait. This is I guess, when I kind of continued working, because I have earlier self-portraits, but I don't want to give you too many images because I got a lot. So I did this in 2011, and there's a perception of how black men kind of should behave, right? there's a perception of how I should conduct my body in the world not to make somebody afraid. Right? And I'm pretty short, I'm kind of fair-skinned, and I think, that I'm not that scary looking, but I've gotten a lot of interesting stories. I don't know if I tell them all here, but they're interesting. So I had a lot of, done a lot of self-portraits before this. And one of my friends from high school asked me, like, why don't you make a painting with yourself smiling? You always look so angry. Why do you have to look that way? And I thought about that for a while. And, in my mind, I was like, why can't I be angry? I'm a human being, right? This is a natural emotion to have. I would expect that everybody has been angry at some point, but why is it a thing for me to conceal my anger? So what I did was, this piece is called Him. So what I did was create these two portraits. And I wanted to contrast historical figures that, from the person on the left talking about the person on the right. So you can see in the background Malcolm X kind of discussing Martin Luther King. You got Muhammad Ali talking about Joe Louis, right? Because essentially, Muhammad Ali in the beginning was not a popular person. People hated him. Malcolm X definitely wasn't a popular person. You don't have a holiday of his. He was not. It wasn't happening. It's not going to happen. But there's this perception of strength. That when strength is shown by a black man or anger, right? That we can't have that. We can't have that in America. That's not. We can't have you on the same equal platform. So I wanted to discuss that in this piece, right? So you have the guy in the light, and I wanted it to be something where whatever I was wearing wasn't too distracting. It's something plain, so it gets light to me. So this piece is done in 2011. So like I said, a lot of my work comes from personal history, right? How I see the world, how I react to it, and then things also come from reading